Space planning is a relevant part in making a room comfortable. The working spaces and design must suit the function of the room itself while meeting the needs, wants, requirements set by the client. Space planning is a fundamental element of the interior design process. It starts with an in-depth analysis of how the space is to be used. The designer then draws up a plan that defines the zones of the space and the activities that will take place in those zones. It shows how people will move through the space. Space planning organizes the space, furniture, and functions to work together and most effectively accommodate the needs of the employees and visitors. Here are some points to be considered when planning your space. First, what are the goals of the organization? Employee engagement, employee health, inviting collaborative spaces. Space planning can represent and support these long-term goals with a suitably designed interior environment. Second, think about how time will be spent in the building. Depending on the industry and type of business, employees might sit at their desks all day. They might collaborate and work in large groups or perhaps have a work style that falls somewhere in between. Most office environments will need to accommodate these possibilities in one way or another. Lastly, there should be focus on designing a space that is ergonomically friendly for employees. Carefully selected furniture allows employees to both sit and stand in their workstation. Certain opportunities for activity can stimulate productivity and health. For example, eliminating waste cans at each station and offering one central trash or recycle station will get employees up and walking, even for a short period of time.
How to create a space plan. We know that space leads to higher productivity and greater employee satisfaction. The question here is, how to create space plan? Creating space plan is divided into two parts. First is the bubble plan and next is a detailed scale plan. Before that, the first thing you need is to collect information. This is the most important part. We need to gather some information about for what we need in creating a space plan. It is important in the very early stages of design to carry out in deep research and consider as many aspects of the use of the spaces as possible. Next part 2, interpret requirements. Build the brief. In this part, we need to look up on how to create space and accommodate humans in those spaces. We consider some universal concepts relating to how people interact with their environments. In this case, we consider insider versus outsider, individual versus community, invitation versus rejection, openness versus enclosure, integration versus segregation, and also combination versus dispersion. This information will be useful reference as you work through the spaces of each room and start to develop some sketch diagrams. Part 3. Consider spaces and spatial relationships. Spatial relationships include on how can spaces be related to one another. Space within space, interlocking spaces, spaces linked by a common spaces, and also adjacent spaces. You can also consider a varying forms of spatial organization, some of which are more naturally suited to particular uses than others, including centralized organization, linear organization, radial organization, clustered organization, and grid organization. Third question we need to consider as we plan. First is, how does the envelope affects the internal spaces? How will the contents of the room be arranged? Do the rooms connect? What is the flow of the circulation? And are the proportions of the spaces comfortable? In developing circulation, we need to consider how people move around the building from room to room is just important as the destination. When developing a circulation structures, we can look at few basic principles. Part 4, in this part, involved in creating solutions. this is the middle part where we need to create or sketch the plan. Once the spaces have been considered and the requirements have been studied, it is time to start sketching out relationships diagram. And this is called the bubble plan. The bubble plan is a simple diagram that will show you what activities take place in the space and relationships between these activities. Let's look at some examples. At this stage, the diagram does not need to represent the building size or space. At this stage, the diagram does not need to represent the building size or space. More, a look at how each room relates to one another, including size and so on. After this, when you are clear about where the activities are going to happen in this space, when you can move on to creating a space plan. Next part, in the part 4, this is called a detailed scaled plan. Try to get as a large a piece of paper as possible. To make it easy, I just getting a large A1 over A2 piece of card and some pencils to do this with. Draw your space to scale on the piece of paper. Include a window, door, belt, and cupboards or shelves, fireplace, and lighting placement. You want to be able to see all the fixtures and features on the plan. Make a list of everything you would like to have in this space and create scaled paper cutouts for each piece. Spend some time moving pieces around. This will help you to think differently about the space, come up with a plan. And the last part, review and revise. Once some solutions have been sketched out, it is then possible to review these solutions and look for areas that require improvement. Last part of space planning. Why does space planning matter? Space planning is a fundamental element of the interior design process. More efficiency in a space leads to higher productivity and greater employee satisfaction. Employee satisfaction can lead to better. And remember, employee satisfaction can lead to better, more innovative work which benefits an organization as a whole. And that's all about space planning.
For this video, we are going to tackle about calculations, particularly the load calculation in column, beam, and slab. But before that, let us first define what are those three. Column. It is a vertical component in building structure, which is mainly to carry the compressive and buckling load. It is one of the important structural members of building structure. The strength of any column mainly depends on its shape and size of cross-section, length, location, and position of the column. Beam. It is a horizontal structural member in building construction, which is designed to carry shear force, bending moment, and transfer the load to columns on both ends of it. For the slab, it is a level structural element of building which provided to create a flat hard surface. These flat surfaces of slab utilized for making floors, roof, and ceilings. Its size vary depending upon the structure size and area, and its thickness also may vary. Slab minimum thickness is specified for normal construction around 125 mm. Generally, every slab is supported by a beam, column, and the wall around it. We have various things to consider in load calculation on column, beam, and slab. Number 1, column self-weight by number of floors. Number 2, beam self-weight per running meter. Number 3, a load of walls per running meter. And the last, the total load on slab, the dead load plus live load plus self-weight. For the load calculation on column, we know that the self-weight of concrete is around 2,400 kg per cubic meter, which is equivalent to 240 Newton, and the self-weight of the steel is around 8,000 kg per cubic meter. So So if we assume a column size of 230 mm by 600 mm with 1% upscale and 3 meters standard height, what will be the total weight of the column? Here's the calculation. Next, for the beam load calculation, we adopt the same calculation method of calculations for beam. Assuming that each meter of the beam has dimensions of 230 mm by 450 mm, excluding slab thickness, what will be the total weight of column? Here is also the calculation. For wall load calculation, we know that the density of bricks varies between 1,500 to 2,000 kg per cubic meter. What will be the load per running meter of wall having 6-inch thick brick wall of 3 meter height and 1 meter length? For slab, let's assume the slab has a thickness of 125 mm. Solve for the self-weight of each square meter and the total load of slab.
Another subtopic under the technical documentation is specifications. So what is it? According to the Dictionary of Architecture and Construction, specifications is a part of the contract documents contained in the project manual consisting of written descriptions of a technical nature of materials, equipment, construction systems, standards, and workmanship. Or to put it simply, a specification is a document that describes in words what cannot be visualized or explained on a drawing or in a model. Although we have now 3D, 4D, and even 6D models, specification is still essential as while models provide clear digital imagery of the environment and some associated information about the project, hindi naman talaga niya totally napapakita doon lahat ng details or yung material requirements. So yung specification, parang nililink together niya yung drawn information along with cost, quantity, and some more necessary details or information for the depiction of project quality. Let's move on to the types of specification. There are 3 types actually. First is the prescriptive specification. It conveys the requirements of a project through a detailed explanation of the materials that the contractor must use and the means of installing those materials. So this type of specification will typically be formatted in a manner similar to the following sections: general, products, and execution. General. This section consists of information such as national quality standards, product handling, design requirements, and keeping quality control. this part describes in detail the various products required for the task covered by the specification, along with the individual structural and performance requirements of each product. For the execution, this section explains how to prepare the materials and conduct the installation, including the testing requirements to be followed. So in this type of spec or specification, architects or engineers has more control over the project design than the contractor. So parang mas certain yung result of decision kaya mas prefer siya gamitin sa mga highly complex project. Lalo na if the client has specific requirements that might not be familiar to contractors or suppliers. Next is the performance specifications. So, performance specs discuss the operational requirements of a project and details what the final installed product has to be capable of doing. So, the performance specification focuses on the outcome and shift the selection of materials and methods, as well as portion of the design work onto the shoulders of the contractors. So in this type of spec naman, the architect or engineer describe what they need or what needs to be done. And then it's all up to the contractor how they are going to do it. They are not instructed as to how to accomplish the task of meeting the performance specification requirements, but only as to how the component must function after the installation. So the third type is the proprietary specification. This type requires the use of a single approved product type for any particular installation. Proprietary specifications are often used in cases where there is existing equipment or installations ready on site. Now let's talk about the purpose of specifications. Drawings are used to express the constructional work or size of the materials used in it, but drawing lack to express the material type, the ratio of different materials used, requirement strength, and required color, or etc. So the purpose of the specification is to highlight the necessary information which cannot be obtained from drawing. And here are some of the main purposes. First, expressing the quality of constructional material or strength of the constructional work. Next, expressing the ratio of components used in concrete or mortar. So while it is possible to show concrete symbolically on drawing, concrete ingredients, types and properties of coarse aggregates, sand, cement, amount of water can only be shown through specifications. Next, expressing the type of materials such as timber type and bricks type. So for example, length and width of doors. Windows are visible on drawing, but it is not possible to show the type of wood which is used for doors and windows. There is a wide variation in prices between different types of wood. Besides this, different types of wood differ in appearance as well as in properties. That is why it is necessary to show the type of wood. So number 4. Next, expressing the color of constructional materials. Listing the conditions of the contract. Evaluating the cost likely to be expended over the constructional work. Explaining the methodology for conducting constructional work. Last but not the least, explaining the machinery and tools used in the constructional work. So, yung specification, malaki talaga yung role niya sa success ng isang project. That's why it is important that all of the goals and intents for the project are considered in the specifications, including those of the client, design team, the builder, and the eventual tenants. This is also to reduce complications in the field. But in essence, specifications really is about data communication and the exchange of information between the client, the designer, and the contractor. So that's all about specifications. Thank you.
For the next topic under technical documentation prior to construction, we have here quantity survey and cost estimates.
Before we proceed to the discussion proper, please let us introduce ourselves first. My name is Francine Ann Alegre,
And this is Baby Linbo, and we will serve as your discussants for this topic. Francine, kung ikaw ang tatanungin, sasama ka ba sa isang laban na hindi ka handa?
Siyempre hindi. Sa mga ganyang bagay, dapat pinagpaplanuhan muna kasi.
Exactly. Kagaya rin yan ng pag-construct ng isang infrastructure. Hindi tayo pwede mag-take ng risk at basta-basta na lang gumawa na hindi nga natin alam kung anong magiging itsura nito, lalong-lalo na kung ilan ang gagastusin natin para mapatayo ito. Dito papasok ang quantity surveying at cost estimation. Quantity survey is the art or knowledge in which materials quantity and entire costs are determined. Ito rin ang tinatawag nating estimating. Quantity survey plays a vital role in estimation and construction of any relevant project. It will help in the determination of all applicable costs and materials quantity so that all of those factors are determined. Nang sa gayon, makapag-release na ng funds. Pero, paano kung sabihin ng client na,
Engineer, short kasi ang budget ko para sa ganyang estimated amount po.
don't worry, dahil meron tayong tinatawag na alterations. Alterations can be conducted so that the project can span within the fixed funds.
Quantity surveyor is the person who estimates, more known as the evaluator or estimator. In order to estimate, we should understand the drawing of a relevant project. Next is data for estimate. Under data for estimate, we have 1. Drawing, second is specifications, and lastly is rates. First is drawing. Katulad ng sinabi ko a few minutes ago, in order to estimate, we should understand your drawing of a relevant project. Through the use of drawings, pinapakita dito ang heights, lengths, and thickness of different parts of the project. Size of every component of the project is shown in the drawing and the estimate is prepared accordingly. Next is specifications. Specifications are appointed along with drawings for the depiction of the project quality. And lastly, rates. Accurate rates of materials and construction works are required for accurate estimation. Rates must rely on reality. So ang rates ay tumutukoy more on sa mga pricing of materials and labor.
Merong dalawang types ng estimate sa civil engineering. First is the original estimate and the next one is the repair estimate. Original estimate is prepared for newly proposed project. Merong dalawang paraan para gawin ng original estimate. First is the rough cost estimate and the next one is the detailed estimate. Iba-iba ang ginagawang rough cost estimate depende sa project na gagawin. Halimbawa, sa buildings, iba ang ginagawang rough cost estimate para dito at iba din para sa roads and highways, iba naman sa irrigation channels, for bridges and culverts, for water supply and sanitary line, for overhead water tank, at iba din sa railway track. Pero let's go in details sa paggawa ng estimates for buildings. There are methods na ginagawa para makuha ang rough cost estimate nito. Isa dito ay ang per unit number or ang method kung saan inaalam kung ilan ang population na kayang i-accommodate ng isang infrastructure. Standard unit cost of accommodation is to be multiplied by the cost per unit. Next is ang plinth area basis. Ito yung kalimitang ginagawa sa pag-construct ng mga building. The needed data here are the plinth area or ang area under the roof, and this is to be multiplied by the appropriate rates. Bukod dito, may iba pang expenses na ina-add para makuha kung ilan nga ba yung gagastusin para mapatayo ang isang building. 8% ng cost of construction ay para sa water supply and sanitary, 8% din para sa electrification, at 4% para sa gas supply. Computed amounts will be summed up at ang 5 to 10% ng total nito ay ia-add din kasi ito yung mga contingencies or mga additional charges na para sa mga urgent basis habang ginagawang project. Kapag nasama pang lahat ng ito, makukuha na natin ang rough cost estimate ng building. Kapag multi-storied ang building, separate cost is determined for each story. The third method is cube rate estimate. At ang hinahanap naman dito is ang volume at i-multiply sa rate per unit volume. Para naman sa iba pang uri ng projects, ito ang mga kailangan nating tandaan. Then, dumako naman tayo sa pangalawang way ng pagkuha ng original estimate. Ito ang tinatawag na detailed estimate. Dahil nga mabusisi ang paggawa nito, meron tayong 5 requirements para makapagsimula ang gumawa ng detailed estimate. One is the project report, next is the specifications, third is the detailed drawing, next is the design data, and fifth is ang rates. Ang detailed estimate ay hindi lang ginagawa para sa mga proposed project pa lang. Pwede kasing gumawa pa rin ng detailed estimate kapag may mga konting changes sa ongoing construction. May tinatawag tayong revised estimate. This is prepared when diversion more than 5% occurs in the detailed estimate. Nangyayari ang diversion due to the fluctuation of prices. Nag-iiba kasi ang price ng mga materials over time. Kaya minsan nagkakaroon ng changes sa estimate kapag lalong-lalo na kapag natatagalan ng paggawa ng project. Meron ding supplementary estimate at ang estimate na ito ay ginagawa kapag may konting changes sa design. Meron ding tinatawag na revised and supplementary estimate. So, ang dalawang klaseng estimates na yon ay minsan sabay silang nangyayari. Kaya may alterations din na ginagawa para sa estimates.
The second type of estimates is repair estimate. Repair and maintenance are done in buildings and other structures in order to maintain and look after them. The estimate is prepared to find the cost applying over the repair. This estimate is known as repair estimate. There are 3 types of repair estimates. First is annual repair estimates. Second is quadrennial repair estimate. And lastly, special repair estimates. First is annual repair estimate. Buildings and other structures are repaired every year to keep them maintained and usable. Estimate prepared for such repair is known as annual repair estimate. This estimate will include whitewashing and other small repairs. 1 to 1.5% budget of the overall cost is kept for this purpose. Second is quadrennial repair estimate. Special repair is done every 4 years despite annual repair, which is known as quadrennial repair. It includes painting and repairing of spoiled plaster. Despite, it includes repairing of doors and windows. And lastly, special estimation. Time is not fixed for special repair. However, repairing of damages of buildings and other structures caused by earthquake, floods, and other accidents is done in a special repair. Despite, buildings and other structures also breed severe damages and miserable status due to continuous and long usage that are repaired especially to make them livable and usable. The special repair will include removing of spoiled floor or roof and constructing a new one, removing broken doors and windows and wood crafting a new one, removing the spoiled plaster and plastering new ones, etc. Road special repair will include filling up patches showed up in the surface of the road, ensuring rigidness of the road banks and footpath maintenance, etc.
Building permit technical documentation. What is a building permit? Building permit technical documentation is a formal document, presenting the design solutions planned for the investment. It serves as a basis for obtaining the opinions, arrangements, consents and permits, including building permits.
A building permit is an official approval issued by the local government agency that allows you, or your contractor to proceed with a construction or remodeling project on your property.
This means that a building permit is intended to ensure that the project plans comply with local standards for land use, zoning, and construction. These standards are intended to ensure the safety of current and future owners or occupants and to provide enforcement of zoning and land use policies. Specific issues that the building permit process may address include structural integrity of the framing work, zoning, sanitation, water and sewer lines, fire protection, and electrical services.
Who needs a building permit?
Most are required to apply for a building permit. Individuals, firms, or corporations who would like to perform construction works on a particular property must seek the authorization of the appropriate LGU for a building permit. This includes those who are looking to construct, alter, renovate, or demolish a property.
If you are hiring a contractor to perform the work, he usually will handle the permit process for you, factoring in the costs of the permit to his bid. If you are doing the work yourself, it is your responsibility to apply for the permit. Be aware that your building department may require that some types of work be done only by licensed professionals. Work on gas lines, for example, may be forbidden to homeowners in some communities.
When is a building permit needed?
Not all home construction and renovation projects require a building permit. In most cases, simple repairs and replacements can be performed by professional contractors or homeowners without applying for a permit. However, any project that involves additions or major changes to your home's structure or its mechanical systems usually require you to apply for an appropriate permit from the local building department.
Construction work starts, those who are looking to erect a building or build or conduct repairs are required by law to acquire a building permit. Those who are looking to build on a piece of land would have to request for a building permit before doing so. It does not matter who owns the piece of real estate. This is a requirement imposed by the statute and of course through the local government unit or the LGU where the property is situated. It requires the applicant to comply with certain standards set by the law. While it might be burdensome to get one, it is necessary to ensure order as well as the safety of all parties involved.
In addition, according to Section 301, Building Permits, Number 1, no person, firm, or corporation, including any agency or instrumentality of the government, shall construct, alter, repair, convert, use, occupy, move, demolish, and add any building or structure or any portion thereof, or cause the same to be done, without first obtaining a building permit, therefore, from the building official assigned in the place where the subject building or structure is located or to be done. The prescribed application for building permit form, NBC Form B-01, shall be used by all applicants. Number 2. Permits supplementary to a building permit shall be applied for and issued by the building official. There are two types: A. Ancillary permits and B. Accessory permits. In letter A, The ancillary permits duly signed and sealed by the corresponding professionals and the plans and specifications shall be submitted together with a duly notarized application for building permit. And pag hindi nakasama or na-accompany ang mga ancillary permits na ito, is maaaring ma-null and avoid ang ating building permit na ipinasa sa building official. And these are the following auxiliary permits. There are 7: the architectural permit, civil or structural permit, electrical permit, mechanical permit, sanitary, plumbing, and electronics permit. And the other one is the accessory permit. These are issued by the building official for accessory parts of the project with very special function or use, which are indicated in the plans and specifications that accompany the building permit application. These are also issued by the building official or activities being undertaken prior to or during the processing of the building permit. This may include, among others, bank and records vaults, swimming pools, towers, silos, smokestacks, chimneys, commercial or industrial fixed ovens, industrial kilns or furnaces, water or waste treatment tanks, septic vaults, and such. And all of these accessory parts needed a accessory permit. Number 3. Exemption from building permits. And there are 2 categories under this exemption, which are the minor constructions and the repair works. And the following are considered to be minor constructions. If magpapagawa po tayo ng sheds, outhouses, ang outhouse po or outhouses is a small structure separated from the main building which covers its toilet. It is also known as a bathroom. Another is greenhouses, children's playhouses, aviaries. Ang aviaries po is a cage for keeping birds, poultry houses, and the like, not exceeding 6 square meters detached from any other building and for owner's private use. Another is the addition of open terraces or patios resting directly on the ground, not exceeding 20 square meters and for owner's private use. And if there is a project na magpapa-install po ng window grills, is considered po yan na minor construction and exempted for building permit. Another is garden pools for cultivation of water plants and or aquarium fish not exceeding 500 millimeters depth. And lastly, erection of garden walls other than party walls not exceeding 1.80 meters in height, cementing of footpaths, garden walks, and or driveways. So the following stated this slide is the works that is exempted from building permits. Letter B, repair works. This includes the following. Number 1, repair works not affecting or involving any structural member, such as replacement of deteriorated roofing sheets or tiles, gutters, downspouts, ceilings, and or sidings. So, ang mga nabanggit ko na repair works is hindi apektuhan ang mga structural member ng project or ng bahay or ng isang structure. Another could be non-load bearing partition walls. So this is any wall that divides a space but does not carry any vertical load from above. And this could be considered as a repair works and exempted from building permit. Number 3 in the list is any interior portion or a house not involving addition or alteration. Addition means increases the height or area of an existing building or structure. And alteration means it involves a lot of changes in material use, and the structure, and the partitioning. And if ever na gamitin or gawin ang addition and alteration to a house or interior portion, it means na hindi na po yung repair works. Another, replacement or repair works of windows, flooring, perimeter fence, and walls. Repair works or replacement of sanitary or plumbing fixtures. Lastly, repair works or replacement of faulty of deteriorated wiring devices, fixtures, and safety devices, provided no alteration shall be made on the service entrance and main switch or breaker, and no circuits will be added. And we are now in the section 302, which is all about application for permits. And in this part, we will know what is the required documents and forms able to obtain a building permit and any ancillary or accessory permits. And according to the National Building Code of the Philippines, or the Presidential Decree 1096, there are 12 on the list that an applicant should complete and pass to the building officials. Building permit requirements. Number 1 is the application form. The owner or the applicant needs to fill up this form. Number 2, 5 sets of plans and specifications prepared, signed, and sealed by duly licensed architect and engineers. Another, to be submitted to the building officials. In case that the applicant is the registered owner of the lot, they need the certified true copies of TCT or the transfer certificate of title, tax declaration, current real property tax receipt. And in case that the applicant is not the registered owner of the lot or the non-lot owners, they are needed to pass duly notarized copies of contract of lease, deed of absolute sale, and contract of sale. Number 4, architectural documents. And this includes A, architectural plans or drawings. B, architectural interiors or interior design. C, plans and specific locations of all accessibility facilities of scale of at least 1:100. D, detailed design of all such accessibility facilities outside and around buildings or structures, including parking areas and their safety requirements, all at scale of 1:50 or any convenient scale. E, fire safety documents, and F, other related documents. As for civil or structural documents, letter A, site development plan. B, structural plans. C, structural analysis and design. D, boring and load test. E, seismic analysis, and F, other related documents. For electrical documents, it includes electrical plans, as well for the others, such as the mechanical documents, it includes mechanical plans, sanitary documents, and so forth. And for the remaining, plumbing documents, electronic documents, geodetic documents, and clearances from other agencies. And these clearances from other agencies includes location clearance from the city or municipal zoning administration, and sometimes can be obtained from the various authorities that exercise and enforce regulatory functions affecting the buildings or structures. The picture shows a standard form for type A0, A1, A2, and A3 for building plans or construction drawings. The example picture shows where different plans are located, such as perspective, site development plan, and location plan. And it also has a table of contents, and there are spaces for division or section action. And in the bottom part of the paper, there is the designer, the project title or the location, and etc., and the owner. There are also sizes of drawing sheets for type A0, A1, A2, and A3. And there are measurements that surrounds the example plan or the paper used for or being passed for the building officials. And in this picture, it shows the model title block for building plans and construction drawing. Kung mapapansin po natin, ito po yung nasa bottom part ng paper, where there is the space for the professionals, the architects, and the different types of engineers. And there is the space for project title or location, for the owner, and for the sheet number. So, these are the information na makikita po sa mga plans na ipapasa at pinirmahan ng mga iba't ibang professionals or the duly licensed and registered professionals. Section 303, Processing of Building Permit. So in this section, we will discuss the flow of processing of building permit and what are the procedures that needed to be followed by the applicants or the owners that need to obtain a building permit. In processing of building permits, it includes building permit application, line and grade verification, architectural, civil or structural, electrical, mechanical, sanitary, plumbing, electronics, and fire safety requirements. The picture shows the processing of application of building permit flowchart. It all starts when the applicant already filled up the building permit application. And according to the note, prior to submission of application for building permit, the owner or applicant and or the professional designer shall secure the locational or zoning clearance and other written clearances to be obtained from various government authorities exercising regulatory functions affecting building and other related structures. Sinasabi po dito na kailangang kumpleto po ang mga papeles ng owner or applicant and dapat ma-secure din po ng mga professional or designer ang local or the land use zoning clearances and other clearances na maaaring kunin sa government agencies if ever na the project needs to obtain a permit from the city or municipal zoning administration and various authorities from the government agencies. And once na kumpleto na po ito is maaari na po natin itong ipasa and mag-process na po ang ating papers. And i-verify po ito, nakalagay po is verification of land use zoning and other clearances. So in this part, there are different classification of land use po kasi according to category. Maaaring residential, commercial, industrial, institutional, parks or playgrounds, infrastructure or utilities, built-up areas, agriculture or agro-industrial, forest, mining or quarrying, grasslands or pasture, swampland or marshes, and other land use. And this part is very important. Sabi nga sa land use zoning. For in this part, we will know if the project that is to be constructed is suitable and compatible for the land that will be used. Because, for example, ang project is bahay and ang nakuhang land is in the classification of grasslands or pasture. So, hindi siya compatible para sa residential houses or residential home. And because of that, kailangan mag-apply for other clearances from other agencies. Like sinabi po sa Section 302 for the applications of building permits. And the land use for the project should be really specified and verified if the location of the project or the land that will be used in that project is suitable for the project itself. Like for example, magpapatayo ng resort and there is a mangrove sanctuary sa likod ng site para sa resort. And because of that, kailangan mag-comply ng mga naka-assign na professionals like the engineers and the architect and the owner to apply for another permit that is included in Section 302 under number 12, clearances from other agencies. And for this example is kailangan nilang humingi ng clearances or ng permit from the DENR or the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. And the next step is the relocation survey plan and report and line and grade, and this will be supervised by a geodetic engineer. Relocation survey plan and report is important to know the boundary of the land of the project, and this is usually the work of the civil engineer or geodetic engineer. As for line and grade, in this part, the engineers see the slope of the lot and check the elevation of the land. So this is very important process. And after this is the next one is the architectural or the accessibility. In this part is very crucial and most important element for in applying for building permits. For in this part is the preparations of architectural drawings, plans of the project. And as for the next steps are the ancillary permits that need to be accomplished as well. This includes land use zoning, civil or structural, electrical, mechanical, sanitary, plumbing, electronics, geodetic, and others if specified. And these are all the plans that need to be submitted to the building officials. And if kompleto na lahat ng plans is ipapasa na and sa next step na, which is the final evaluation and recommendations of these plans and specifications. In this part, pwedeng magkaroon ng revision and magbigay ng recommendation ang building officials sa landowners or sa applicant. And after maipadala at naparating sa building official, the next thing that will happen is the issuance of building permit. And marireceive na ang mga papers in which in this box, receiving, recording, and releasing. And the next step will be to go to the city or municipal treasury or the cashier to pay for the payment of fees for the building permit. And after that, the applicant will go back to the building official, and the building official will endorse or it will happen or mangyayari po ang endorsement to proper authorities. In this part, the building official may say, and this shows that the project is worthy of issuing building permit. And the next step will be the receiving or the recording and releasing of the building permit. And there you go. Then you will have the building permit issued and released. And this picture is another example of showing the process of Application of building permit flowchart. Section 304 is about the issuance of building permit. Number 1 under Section 304 Issuance of Building Permit. Number 1. When the application for building permit and the plans and specifications submitted herewith conforms to the requirements of the code and its IRR or the implementing rules and regulations, the building official shall within 15 days from payment of the required fees by the applicant issue the building permit applied for. So, if the applicant successfully comply to the requirements of the code and as well as the pertinent laws like the fire code or the BP 344, then the building official will issue and will release the building permit after 15 days, and the applicant will obtain the building permit for the construction of the project. Number 2. The building official may issue a permit for the construction of only a part or portion of a building or structure whenever the plans and specifications submitted together with the application do not cover the entire building or structure. Number 3. The building official may issue a ground preparation and excavation permit even while the building permit application is still being processed subject to payment of the corresponding fees. So according to number 1, after 15 days pa makukuha ang building permit. Still, the building official may allow the applicant to construction activities like ground preparation and excavation even though wala pa talagang building permit. So yun lang po ang ina-allow ng building official. Number 4, for excavations more than 50 cubic meters and more than 2 meters in depth, the owner or permittee shall post a cash bond of 50,000 pesos for the first 50 cubic meters and 300 pesos for every cubic meters in excess of 50 cubic meters until the building permit is issued. Said excavations shall not exceed 100 cubic meters or 3 meters in depth and shall not be left open without any work being done in the site for more than 120 days. Otherwise, the cash bond shall be forfeited in favor of the government to cover the expense for the backfilling of the excavation should the owner or permittee fail to restore the same. Number 5. Terms and conditions of permits. The issued building permit shall be subject to the following terms and conditions. Letter A. That under Article 1723 of the Civil Code of the Philippines, the engineer or architect who drew up the plans and specifications for a building or structure is liable for damages if within 15 years from the completion of the building or structure, the same should collapse due to defect in the plans or specifications or defects in the ground. The engineer or architect who supervises the construction shall be solidarily liable with the contractor should the edifice collapse due to defect in the construction or the use of inferior material. In letter A shows the great responsibility of professionals, the engineers and architects, and their obligations for their works. It is stated that they are liable for any damages that will happen or that might happen in the project they handle in the past or in the present or in the future. They are liable for everything that will happen to that structure or building within 15 years. But the worst scenario will never happen if the professionals such as the engineers and architects will comply to the minimum standards given by different codes such as the National Building Code of the Philippines. And if they do that, they will not face any problems regarding this. Letter B. that the proposed construction, erection, addition, alteration, renovation, conversion, repair, moving, demolition, etc. shall be in conformity with the provisions of the National Building Code and its IRR, or the implementing rules and regulations. So in this part, it highlights the importance of compliance to the provisions of the National Building Code. Letter C. That no building or structure shall be used until the building official has issued a certificate of occupancy, therefore as provided in the code. However, a partial certificate of occupancy may be issued for the use or occupancy of a portion or portions of a building or structure prior to the completion of the entire building or structure. So, this certificate is the basis para masabi kung pwede na bang tumira ang mga occupants sa pinapatayong building or structure. And if the building officials, kung hindi pa naman sila nag-i-issue nito, this means na hindi pa talaga maaaring magstay or i-occupy ang space or that building or structure. But this permit shall not serve as an exemption from securing written clearances from various government authorities exercising regulatory function affecting buildings or structures. Aside from building permit, hindi lang dapat po itong kinukuha at sinisecure ng every building or any structures. Kailangan din mag-comply and mag-apply ng different clearances from various government authorities. Just like, for example, ang Bureau of Fire Protection. This agency of government regulates and regularly check every year every building and structures if they have this fire protection system. If they have fire extinguisher, fire alarms, for this is for the safetyness of the occupants in the building or for the safetyness of the building itself from the hazardous fire that have the potential to damage the building. Letter E. When the construction is undertaken by contract, the work shall be done by a duly licensed and registered contractor pursuant to the provisions of the Contractors License Law RA 4566. This pertains to the contractor of the project. So, sometimes there are architects who can also be a contractor if they can do design and build. But most commonly, the main contractor is a civil engineer that have a CAB license. Letter F. The owner or permittee shall submit a duly accomplished prescribed notice of construction to the office of the building official prior to any construction activity. Letter G. The owner or permittee shall put a building permit sign which complies with the prescribed dimensions and information which shall remain posted on the construction site for the duration of the construction. This picture shows the standard signboard for the residential buildings for exclusive use of owners or non-leasing occupants. In this sign, it includes the building permit number, the date issued, the name of the project, who's the owner, the architect, and the design professionals. That includes the architect, civil engineer, professional electrical engineer, professional mechanical engineer, sanitary engineer, master plumber, and electronics engineer, and the professionals in charge of full-time inspection and supervision works. First, the architect and the engineer. And there is also the measurement for the standard signboard. For the length is 0.90 meters and the height is 0.60 meters. As for this picture, it shows another building permit sign, but this includes a perspective of the building or the structure. And the building permit sign or the required standard signboard includes the name of the project, but it is optional when desired. The owner, the architect, the design professionals, and the professionals in charge of full-time inspection and supervision works, like who is the architect or the engineer.
Section 305. Validity of building permits.
The issuance of a building permit shall not be construed as an approval or authorization to the permittee to disregard or violate any of the provisions of the code.
Whenever the issuance of a permit is based on approved plans and its specifications which are subsequently found effective, the building official is not precluded from requiring permittee to effect the necessary corrections in said plans and specifications, or from preventing or ordering the establishment of any or all building operations being carried on thereunder which are in violation of the building permit issued under the provisions of the code shall expire and become null and void if the building or work authorized therein is not commenced within a period of 1 year after the issuance of the building permit, or is suspended or abandoned at any time after it has been commenced for a period of 120 days.
So, sinasabi mo dito na meron ng expiration date ang isang building permit. Once na na-issuehan ka ng building permit, ay meron ka ng 1 year para gamitin ito or mag-proceed sa construction. If within that time is hindi nagamit ng building permit, it will be considered as expired. Pero meron ng instance like nakapag-proceed na sa building permit within the year, pero nag-stop ito. You will be given an allowance of 120 days para tapusin ulit ang building.
Section 306. Non-issuance, suspension or revocation of building permits. The building official may order or cause the non-issuance, suspension or revocation of building permits on any or all of the following reasons or grounds.
1. Errors found in the plans and the specifications. 2. Incorrect or inaccurate data or information supplied. 3. Non-compliance with the provisions of the code or any rules or regulations. Notice of non-issuance, suspension, or revocation of building permits shall always be made in writing, stating the reasons or grounds thereof. The first figure here is the standard signboard, which is the residential buildings for exclusive use of owners or non-leasing occupants. The next figure is the required standard signboard for commercial, industrial, educational, social, institutional, recreational buildings, and others. This concludes our discussion about the building permit, but the Rule 3, Permits and Inspection from the National Building Code of the Philippines or the Presidential Decree 1096 covers 3 more sections, which are the following: Section 307, Appeal; Section 308, Inspection and Supervision of Work; Section 309, Certificate of Occupancy. To know more about this topic, please click on the link below. Also, other handouts link will be posted down below on the description box. Thank you.
This video is a compiled work of the following students: Francine Allegra, Kimberly Arreglo, Jain Azla Tutubo, Abigail Belga, Babylin Bo, Jovic Bonifacio, Rionel Bungaling, Alexander Cabriana, Maris Bussy, and Carmela Chavez from the Sorsogon State College. Thank you for watching. Study smart, future engineers.